What's up, guys? So in this video, we're going to be taking a look at the Arri Alexa Classic and the Ursa Mini Pro 12K's dynamic range. Now, when I did my test a couple of days ago, when I did overexposure tests over the weekend, I was really shocked at the result because I didn't expect the Ursa Mini Pro 12K to get destroyed by the Arri Alexa, because when I tested the Pocket 6K against the Arri Alexa, the Arri Alexa lost to the Pocket 6K. If you haven't seen that video, go check it out. Then again, I got a message today from Lee, and he told me to look at the manual, the Ursa Mini Pro 12K, and look at the dynamic range chart, which I haven't done. So that's what you're looking at right now. And as it stands out, the Ursa Mini Pro 12K's dynamic range is distributed much differently than the previous cameras. So in a way, my test made so much sense. I know a lot of people still believe that ISO is only metadata. I got a lot of crap about this when I made that video about a couple of years ago about this. But when shooting blackmagic cameras and Arri Alexas, coming from a DSLR, it's hard to get used to this, but ISO that you choose will determine the distribution of the dynamic range in your footage. Meaning, if you were to shoot at ISO 800, 6.1 of that is going to be above the middle, and 7.8 is going to be below the middle gray. If you don't believe me, just look at the manual. The Ursa Mini Pro 12K has a total of 14 stops of dynamic range, but the way that 14 stops is distributed is determined by what ISO you're shooting at. With that being said, let's take a look at how Arri Alexa's dynamic range is spread out by looking at this chart. At ISO 800, it has 7.8 stops above 18% gray, 6.7 stops below. So you're looking at ISO 800, a 6.1 and a 7.8. The Arri Alexa will definitely destroy the Ursa Mini Pro 12K in the highlights. So why is that important? Well, let me get you a scenario real quick. Last weekend, I think it was 2 weekends ago, I went to shoot a behind the scenes for a local photographer here in Texas. And the wedding he was shooting at was midday, noon, bright sunlight. It was crazy. Obviously, as a photographer, he didn't have a choice. He just went to the event. He doesn't determine when the event's going to happen. So this is why I think this kind of plays along, and this is why it's important to understand this. Because if we look at this test footage, now that manual is all theory, right? That's nice, charts and all. But what I did was I went out and shot some clips at different ISOs between the Ursa Mini Pro 12K and the Arri Alexa to kind of just hammer in this point here. This right here, what you're looking at, was the same exact scenario I ran into a couple of weekends ago when I shot the behind the scenes for the wedding. Broad daylight. Crazy daylight, bright daylight. It's very important that you know this before you purchase this camera if you're an event videographer or a wedding videographer. Because let's say it's the same exact scenario, really, really, really bright. And if you shoot at ISO 800, you're only going to get a 6.1 in the highlights range, okay? Which, depending on the scene, that might be okay. Depending on where you are, that might be cool. With the Arri Alexa at ISO 800, you get 7.8 stops in the high range, which is a lot, right? It's more than the Ursa Mini Pro 12K. So for you to get the same exact stops on the Ursa Mini Pro 12K on a higher range, you'll have to put your ISO up to 2000 or 2500 right here. You get a total of 13.9 stops, and it's distributed like this: 7.7, 6.2. This is what we'll look at. All right? So let's say there's two shooters, an Ursa Mini Pro 12K guy and an Arri Alexa guy. I don't know why the heck you would shoot a wedding with an Arri Alexa, but you guys get the point. Arri Alexa shoots at 800 ISO. He gets 7.8 stops in a high range. It looks amazing, fantastic. Ursa Mini Pro 12K guy goes there, shoots at ISO 800, and he's like, dude, why is my shot not looking like yours? Why are my highlights blown out? Why are the clouds gone? So now the Ursa Mini Pro 12K looks at this table and he goes, bro, I got you. Let me go crank it up to 2500 ISO, and I should have the same exact highlights as your camera, which is absolutely right, correct in theory. What are the problems of you doing that, or the Ursa Mini Pro 12K guy doing when he cranks up that ISO 2500? Number one, noise. Okay. Number two, f-stops. Number 3, ND filter. And that's all I can think of right now. F-stops. That means this dude's gonna have to stop down to like F16 if he were to shoot at 2500 in this scenario right here. And I'm gonna show you. Okay? ND filters. I don't go anything higher than a 4-stop ND filter. And sometimes I don't even want to go to a 4-stop ND filter. I just go to 3 because 4 stops just, you know, with Blackmagic cameras, a 4 stops, it introduces a lot of crappiness, right? A lot of filtration there, IR. So I try to stay at 3 stops, but I mostly do 4 stops. So can you imagine that wedding videographer guy with Ursa Mini Pro 12K in a situation like this? And he wants to get some of the highlights back because he wants to get the clouds and all that pretty stuff. All right? He's going to have to step up to 2500 ISO. He's going to have to stop down his lens. And he's going to need a lot of ND filters just to match up what the Arri Alexa was doing at ISO 800. Okay, so you can kind of see why this is important to understand before you purchase this camera, because you might run into situations like this where you don't want to stop down at f16. You want depth of field, but at f16, everything's going to be in focus. And, you know, that's what I did today. All right, and I'm going to show you that right now. So I have here is Ursa Mini Pro 12K at ISO 800, Arri Alexa ISO 800, 16, 16, 25, 25. All right. And unfortunately for us, we're going to be using let's go make sure everything is standard. Yep. I'm going to be using the Arri Alexa Direct 709 LUT on the Arri Alexa. And for the Blackmagic, I'm going to be using the extended video because here, shoot, I'll show you. I'll show you the difference. This is video, extended video. Okay. You have a lot more to play around with the extended video. And that's why I like using it for now, until somebody comes up with a LUT that I can use. Or, you know, I can just stop being lazy and do this manually. All right, so I set that to extended video. And then for the Arri, let's put a Rec 709 on there. And as you can see, with just a slight difference of exposure there, they're pretty similar. Because I used a light meter outside. I took a light meter outside and I used it out there. Got like an ambient lighting, and this is what I came up with both the cameras. Okay, pretty similar. Let's see what happens when we start stretching the contrast. And this is not a color grading tutorial. You know, I stopped doing those because apparently I don't know how to do it. But we're just stretching the contrast here, guys. Stretch the contrast on the area as well. I'm just using my control panel here. I'm just going to make it touch that blue until it touches that blue right there. Okay. All right, here we go. Arri Alexa, Ursa Mini Pro 12K. Subtle difference, but you can definitely tell that the Arri Alexa has more in the highlights. This is the same exact shot, same exact time. Okay. Killer, right? For a camera that's 12 years old, that's insane. And that's just German engineering for you, man. The Germans are so intelligent. It's insane. Somebody in the comments a couple of days ago said, go ahead and drop down the white level to, you know, gain some detail back. But as you can see, dropping that white level just makes everything really dark. You do get some. So you can see it's just getting darker. But you're making the overall image a little bit darker. So, you know, that's that. Just wanted to show you guys what that does. You can also drop the exposure if you want, which is similar to doing what I just did. And to be honest, the Ursa Mini Pro 12K is no joke. That's still pretty darn impressive, guys. I remember when I shot in Nikon and then Canon DSLR back then, 10 stops of dynamic range, that sky wouldn't be there right now. So that's still a really good dynamic range, but we're comparing cameras here. Okay, old school versus new school. So let's bring that down and let's look at the Arri Alexa. The Arri Alexa has this highlight slider. See what happens? Same thing. I can also drop that ISO and I would even get more. All right. So realistically, you can work on the footage, but at the end of the day, unless you do some kind of crazy LUT, the Arri Alexa will always have more highlights as far as dynamic range goes. You can flip it however you want, but at the end of the day, if you do the same thing you're doing on both of these clips, the Arri Alexa will always have more because it's captured more. Moving on to 1600. Let's take a look at the 1600. 7.1 on the top, 6.8, 8.6 on the top, 5.9 in the bottom. Okay. So I'm going to go Alt-1, Alt-2, Control-1, Control-2. I'm going to adjust this to 1600, and I'm going to adjust this to 1600. And we are back to square one. Delete the stretching, and we're going to restretch. All right, so restretch. Top. Go. And then we'll restretch this. And then we restretch. At 1600, the ISO. Okay. Let's see if we can get this to match a little closer. I think I need to go darker on the Ursa Mini Pro here. I'm just going left and right. That's crazy, man. You just really see the green. This is green. That's greenish brown. So here we go. 1600 ISO. There goes your Arri. And there goes your Ursa Mini Pro 12K. Okay. You can see. Let's drop the highlights down. See that. And if you want, drop the exposure down so you can see what it's doing. Okay. See that? At the end of the day, the Arri Alexa will have more dynamic range because that's just the way it is, right? For right now, at least. Okay. Moving on to the 32 or 2500. Let's take a look at this one. Control-1, Control-2, delete that, create a new node, change it to 2500, change that to 2560 because there's no 2500 in the Arri Alexa. Okay, so it is a little bit brighter. So that's good. And then we're going to do extended video on this, and let's just stretch it. All right. Stretch this one. Say 2560, 5600. Make sure everything is good. Let's go ahead and stretch this. Okay. So at 2500 and 2560. Actually, they don't have a chart for that one. At 2500, you should get 7.7 to 6.2, which, like I said, it should be similar to this 7.8 of the ISO 800. Okay, so Ursa and then Arri. Obviously, it's gonna get noisy. This is pretty noisy there. I don't know if you can see that. All right, guys. If you have any questions, let me know. I am still wanting to do another overexposure test between these two cameras, but yeah, I'll see you guys later.